If you arrived at this video, chances are you already see yourself as a millionaire. Maybe not in your bank account yet, but in your mind, your heart, your vision. You know it's only a matter of time before the fortune finds you. But before that happens, you need to know this. There are 10 things that self-made millionaires never do. And if you're doing any of them, you might be blocking your own success. Most people have never heard these truths. And the difference between being broke and being wealthy might be hidden in what you're about to discover. So don't miss a second of this video. I'll reveal these 10 secrets from the least important to the most powerful one at the end. Watch until the very last one, because it could open your mind and attract a whole new level of abundance into your life. You are prosperous. You are a winner. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to this channel. A channel created and dedicated to everyone who dreams of becoming a millionaire and knows they were born to live a prosperous life on this earth. Let's get into it. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. They don't entertain negative thoughts. Every self-made millionaire knows something that most people overlook. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. What you think, you eventually speak. What you speak, you begin to believe. What you believe, you act upon. And what you act upon becomes your life. That's why negative thoughts are more than just fleeting moments of doubt. They are seeds of failure. Millionaires don't allow negativity to take root in their minds. They've trained themselves to become aware of destructive thinking the moment it shows up, and they immediately shut it down or replace it with something empowering. It's not that they never feel fear or uncertainty. They do. But they refuse to give those feelings control. They don't feed them. They don't repeat them. They don't allow them to fester. Why? Because negative thinking is expensive. It costs time, energy, clarity, and momentum. It clouds judgment. It magnifies problems. It shrinks confidence. And worst of all, it attracts more of the same. Millionaires understand the law of attraction, not as some mystical force, but as a natural outcome of focus and mindset. Whatever you consistently think about, you start to notice more. Your brain becomes a filter, letting in ideas, people, and opportunities that match your dominant thoughts. If you're constantly thinking of lack, struggle, and failure, that's exactly what your mind will spot, and what your life will reflect. Self-made millionaires deliberately choose their thoughts like a sculptor choosing the right tools to shape their masterpiece. They ask empowering questions. Instead of "what if I fail?" they ask, "what if this works?" Instead of "why is this happening to me?" they ask, "what can I learn from this?" They know that a mind filled with fear produces hesitation, and hesitation kills dreams. They also guard their mental space like it's sacred, because it is. They're careful about the content they consume, the conversations they engage in, and the people they surround themselves with. They know that one toxic voice, even their own inner voice, can derail momentum. That's why you'll often see successful people repeating affirmations, visualizing their goals, meditating, or journaling. These aren't cliches. These are tools. Tools to condition the mind for success. Tools to reinforce belief and drown out doubt. The average person lets life happen to them. A millionaire creates their life, and it all starts with how they think. Positive thinking isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to believe in possibility, even when the path is unclear. It's about focusing on what can be done instead of complaining about what can't. Your thoughts are the beginning of everything. And millionaires know. If you don't master your mind will master you, and it will keep you broke, stuck, and small. That's why the first thing they never do is entertain negative thoughts. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich. I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset, 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind. They don't blame others for their situation. Blame is easy. It's comfortable. It protects your ego, gives you a target, and offers you an excuse to stay exactly where you are. But here's the truth. You will never become rich while handing the steering wheel of your life to someone else. Self-made millionaires understand one principle better than most: radical responsibility. They don't look outward for answers to their problems. They look inward. They don't waste time assigning fault to parents, partners, politics, or the past. They know that every second spent pointing fingers is a second not spent building solutions. And solutions, not stories, are what create success. Blaming others is emotional laziness. It's a refusal to confront the role you've played in your own outcomes. Your habits, your choices, your mindset. Millionaires reject this mindset completely. They see blame as a trap, a toxic loop that keeps people stuck in victimhood, waiting for something or someone to save them. Responsibility, on the other hand, is power. When you take ownership of your life, all of it, the good and the bad, you reclaim control. You stop waiting and start doing. You stop complaining and start creating. Wealth doesn't come to those who wait for permission or fairness. It comes to those who rise above circumstance and say, "This is on me." And that's a good thing. Many people spend their entire lives believing they're unlucky. They think they were dealt a bad hand, born into the wrong place, or surrounded by the wrong people. While those challenges may be real, they are not final. Millionaires know that starting disadvantaged is not the same as staying disadvantaged. They rewrite their story. They refuse to be defined by where they started, and instead, use it as fuel to drive where they're going. This mindset shift is subtle but life-changing. It means turning obstacles into lessons, betrayals into boundaries, and failures into feedback. It means saying, "I got myself into this, I can get myself out." That kind of self-honesty is rare, but it's where all transformation begins. Millionaires also avoid the trap of collective blame. They don't indulge in blaming the economy, the system, or society. Why? Because they understand that no amount of outrage changes their reality. Only action does. They might acknowledge external challenges, but they never use them as excuses to stop pushing forward. They ask, "What can I do with what I have right now?" And then they do it. Blame keeps you emotionally safe but financially stuck. It soothes your pride but steals your future. Taking ownership might feel uncomfortable at first, but it opens doors that excuses never will. When you own your choices, you gain clarity. When you own your results, you gain freedom. And when you own your life fully, you become unstoppable. That's why the self-made never blame. Because they understand. When you hand over responsibility, you hand over power. And millionaires never give away their power. They don't waste time on things that don't matter. Time is the only currency that cannot be earned back. You can lose money and recover it. You can lose opportunities and find new ones. But once a minute is gone, it's gone forever. That's why self-made millionaires treat their time with an intensity most people reserve for money. Because in their world, time is money, multiplied by focus and purpose. You won't catch a millionaire drowning in distractions. They don't sit for hours watching meaningless entertainment. They don't scroll endlessly through social media feeds, consuming the lives of others while their own dreams gather dust. They don't fill their schedule with noise disguised as activity. They know the difference between movement and progress. They protect their time with intention, precision, and strategy, not passivity. Every moment is a decision. Spend it wisely, and it compounds into growth, skill, and opportunity. Waste it, and it dissolves into regret. Millionaires are not obsessed with being busy. They're obsessed with being effective. They choose activities that push them forward. Learning, building, connecting, creating. If something doesn't lead to expansion, whether personal, professional, or spiritual, it's filtered out. This mindset isn't about being robotic or joyless. It's about alignment. Self-made millionaires align their time with their purpose. They ask themselves constantly, "Does this serve where I'm going?" If the answer is no, it's eliminated, outsourced, or postponed. They are ruthless with distractions and intentional with their priorities. They also understand the cost of saying yes to the wrong things. Every agreement comes with an invisible trade-off. Saying yes to hours of mindless content means saying no to building skills, deep thinking, or moving closer to a goal. Millionaires say no often, not because they are arrogant or antisocial, but because they value their time as sacred. They treat each day like a limited resource, and they invest it where it matters most. Self-made millionaires design their environment to support focus. They structure their routines. They reduce decision fatigue. They minimize chaos. They build systems to free up their mind for what actually matters. This creates a compound effect, where small focused actions lead to massive long-term results. While most people are reactive with their schedule, letting the day pull them in a dozen directions, millionaires are proactive architects of their time. They know that success isn't built in dramatic leaps. It's constructed quietly, hour by hour, day by day, through consistent, meaningful effort. And they don't chase the illusion of having time later. They don't delay growth, peace, or wealth for someday. They move now. They act now. They think in terms of return, not just of money, but of value. Does this bring clarity? Does this bring energy? Does this bring results? If not, it's not worth their attention. That's why you'll never see a true millionaire waste their time on things that don't matter. Because they know, how you spend your time is how you spend your life. And millionaires refuse to waste either. They don't hang around negative people. Success isn't built in isolation, but it's absolutely destroyed by the wrong company. Self-made millionaires understand that the people you surround yourself with are either lifting you higher or pulling you down. There is no neutral. Every relationship is either a deposit or a withdrawal, and they track that with precision. They're hyper-aware of one truth. Energy is contagious. The moods, habits, beliefs, and standards of those around you silently shape your own. Spend enough time around people who gossip, complain, procrastinate, or play small, and you'll eventually mirror their behavior, even without noticing it. That's why successful individuals are intentional about their inner circle. They build it like a fortress. Not out of arrogance, but out of protection. Millionaires avoid environments filled with negativity, not just because it's uncomfortable, but because it's dangerous. Negative people drain motivation. They distort your vision. They plant seeds of doubt. And they normalize mediocrity. You might start out strong, but constant exposure to cynicism and criticism will slowly chip away at your ambition. That's why millionaires make difficult but necessary choices. They distance themselves from complainers, no matter how close they once were. They avoid people who always see the problem but never seek the solution. They cut ties with those who mock ambition or treat growth as a threat. These aren't small decisions. They're acts of self-preservation. They understand that building wealth requires clarity, conviction, and relentless forward momentum. None of those things survive in a toxic atmosphere. So, instead of tolerating draining relationships, they cultivate connections that challenge their thinking, stretch their limits, and hold them accountable. They seek mentors, peers, and partners who live by excellence. People who talk about ideas, not just other people. People who celebrate progress, not envy it. People who inspire action, not excuses. This filtering process is not about judgment. It's about alignment. Millionaires seek alignment with people who share similar values, work ethic, and drive. They create circles where ambition is normalized, where victories are shared, and where failure isn't ridiculed, it's studied and learned from. In that kind of environment, growth isn't just possible, it's inevitable. They also know when to say no to invitations, conversations, or relationships that offer no growth. They guard their mental and emotional space with the same intensity they guard their business. Because one negative influence, left unchecked, can sabotage momentum more effectively than any external obstacle. In their world, environment shapes destiny, and the company you keep is one of the most powerful forces shaping who you become. Millionaires know that success is hard enough on its own. There's no room for anchors in a life that demands wings. So they don't just network, they curate. They don't just socialize, they strategize. They invest in people who fuel them, and they release those who drain them. Because they know, you can't build an empire with people who secretly hope you fail, and millionaires never give their future to small minds. They don't fear failure. Failure terrifies most people. It's avoided, hidden, and treated like a source of shame. But for self-made millionaires, failure is neither frightening nor final. It's part of the blueprint. They don't just tolerate it. They embrace it, study it, and use it to refine their path. In their world, failing doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're building. This mindset isn't accidental. It's cultivated through experience. Every successful entrepreneur, investor, or innovator has a backstory filled with rejection, missteps, and moments of doubt. But what separates them from the average person isn't luck. It's the way they respond to defeat. While most run from failure, they run toward the lesson inside it. To them, failure is simply data. It's feedback. It tells them what doesn't work, where the weaknesses are, and what needs to change. Instead of internalizing it as a personal flaw, they treat it as valuable information. They dissect it, extract insight, and adjust their strategy. They know the only way to discover what works is to go through what doesn't, repeatedly. Those who fear failure often wait for perfect timing, flawless conditions, or complete certainty. But millionaires know that waiting kills progress. Perfection doesn't exist. Certainty is a myth. And failure isn't something to be avoided. It's the very process that sharpens instincts, develops resilience, and fuels innovation. They also understand that failing in public is not the same as being humiliated. They're willing to stumble in front of others because they've learned to separate their identity from the outcome. Their self-worth isn't tied to a single result. It's built on persistence, adaptability, and the willingness to keep showing up. The fear of failure paralyzes. It stops people from starting businesses, asking questions, making investments, or taking calculated risks. But self-made millionaires operate on a different frequency. They fear regret far more than they fear mistakes. They fear looking back and realizing they never tried. So, they act, even when the outcome is uncertain. This boldness isn't recklessness. It's clarity. They calculate risks. They study patterns. They prepare, but they don't let fear make their decisions. They know that every major reward sits on the other side of discomfort, and sometimes, disaster. Still, they move forward. Because to them, failure is not the opposite of success. It's the path to it. They see failure as a test of commitment. Will you try again after falling? Will you refine your approach, improve your mindset, and take another swing? Or will you crumble at the first sign of resistance? Millionaires answer those questions with action, again and again, until they win. They don't romanticize failure, but they respect it. They know it humbles the arrogant and strengthens the focused. It's not fun, but it's formative. It builds character, sharpens decision-making, and exposes what needs to evolve. That's why they never run from failure. Because they've learned the truth. Every breakthrough is built on a series of breakdowns, and those who win big are simply the ones who kept showing up after every fall. They don't rely on just one source of income. Dependence is dangerous, especially when it comes to money. Self-made millionaires understand that relying on a single source of income is not just limiting, it's risky. They view financial stability not as a fixed salary, but as a dynamic network of revenue streams working together to support, grow, and protect their wealth. To them, earning is a system, not a paycheck. One income means one point of failure. If that stream dries up, due to layoffs, market shifts, or global events, everything collapses. That's why millionaires build multiple sources. Some active, some passive, all strategic. They don't wait for permission to diversify. They create opportunities. While most people focus on trading time for money, millionaires focus on building assets, things that generate money even when they're not working. They invest in real estate, dividends, royalties, online platforms, intellectual property, or scalable businesses. Each stream is a layer of protection and a channel for expansion. This mindset isn't born from greed. It's born from foresight. Life is unpredictable. Industries change. Companies fold. Technologies evolve. Millionaires insulate themselves from economic uncertainty by refusing to place all their hopes, plans, or freedom in the hands of a single employer or market. Control over your income is control over your life, and they don't hand that control to anyone else. They also view money as a seed, not just a reward. Instead of spending every dollar they earn, they reinvest it into vehicles that produce more income. They build systems that pay them repeatedly, not just once. Each stream becomes a foundation for another, a chain reaction of financial momentum. This approach requires discipline, vision, and a deep understanding of how money moves. It's not about hustling endlessly. It's about setting up systems that work while you sleep. That could mean rental properties producing monthly cash flow, e-commerce generating automated sales, or content monetized across platforms. The goal is independence, not from work, but from vulnerability. Millionaires also constantly educate themselves about finance, markets, and opportunities. They learn where money flows, how to manage risk, and when to pivot. They aren't waiting to be rescued by a promotion. They're creating their own economy. Relying on one income stream makes you reactive. You're always waiting for payday, always subject to someone else's decisions. But with multiple streams, you move from survival to strategy. You're not just earning, you're engineering your future. This doesn't mean starting 10 businesses overnight. It means thinking differently. It means asking, what can I build, own, or create that continues to pay me? It means realizing that financial freedom isn't about working harder, it's about earning smarter. So, while most live under the pressure of a single source, hoping nothing goes wrong, millionaires live in a world of options. If one stream slows, the others flow. If one door closes, 5 more are already open. Because they understand this truth. One income is too close to none, and real wealth is built on streams that never stop flowing. They don't spend more than they make. At first glance, this principle might seem basic, common sense, even. But while it may sound simple, its power is unmatched. The majority of people overlook it, ignore it, or abandon it, and that's exactly why so many never build real wealth. Self-made millionaires, however, have mastered it. They understand that controlling how money flows out is just as crucial as how money flows in. Living below your means is not about deprivation. It's about discipline. It's not about being cheap. It's about being conscious. Millionaires don't confuse lifestyle with success. They know the world often rewards appearances, but real wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you own. A flashy watch, designer outfit, or luxury car might impress strangers for a moment, but those things don't build equity, don't produce income, and don't secure the future. They depreciate, distract, and often dig financial holes. In the early stages of wealth building, restraint is everything. Millionaires rein in the urge to look rich, so they can become rich. They see every dollar as a tool. It can be spent, saved, or multiplied, but once it's wasted, it's gone forever. That's why they analyze spending not by what's affordable, but by what's strategic. They ask, does this purchase move me closer to freedom, or further from it? That's a question few people ask. Most spend emotionally, reactively, and socially. They buy because they're bored, pressured, or trying to impress. Millionaires, on the other hand, spend intentionally. Their budgets reflect their goals, not their impulses. They understand that money has a purpose, and it's not to fill voids or win approval. They also recognize the silent trap of lifestyle inflation, the habit of increasing expenses every time income rises. While others upgrade cars, move into bigger homes, or swipe cards for status, millionaires resist the drift. They lock in a modest standard of living, even as their earnings multiply. That gap, the space between what they earn and what they spend, becomes the engine of their wealth. It funds investments, seeds businesses, and builds safety nets. Wealth isn't built by income alone. It's built by the margin you keep. A person earning $500,000 a year but spending $495,000 is only slightly more secure than someone earning $50,000. In contrast, someone earning $80,000 but saving and investing half of it is on a faster track to independence than most high earners with expensive tastes and empty bank accounts. Millionaires view money as a resource to be preserved, protected, and multiplied, not flaunted. They separate needs from wants, and wants from ego. They don't chase validation through materialism. They don't confuse can afford with should buy. They delay gratification not because they're afraid to enjoy life, but because they're building a foundation strong enough to support a life most can't imagine. They also avoid debt like a disease. Unless it's leveraged for growth, they steer clear. Credit card balances, high-interest loans, and financing luxuries are traps they don't touch. They use debt strategically, not emotionally. If it doesn't earn more than it costs, they walk away. While many treat debt as a way to get ahead faster, millionaires understand it's often just a future burden disguised as freedom. They track their numbers religiously. They know what comes in, what goes out, and where every cent lands. This awareness isn't obsessive. It's empowering. It gives them control, clarity, and confidence. Financial ignorance is expensive. Millionaires avoid it at all costs. And perhaps most importantly, they aren't driven by external pressure. They don't fall into the trap of comparing their lifestyle to others. They don't measure success by what they wear or where they vacation. They're comfortable being underestimated, overlooked, or even misunderstood because they're playing a long game. And while others are buying liabilities disguised as trophies, they're buying time, freedom, and peace of mind. Their discipline compounds over time. What starts as a decision to skip one purchase turns into thousands saved, invested, and multiplied. They don't chase every pleasure today because they're designing a life that pays them forever. They don't fall for the illusion of looking rich. They build the reality of being rich. Because at the end of the day, wealth isn't measured by what you spend. It's measured by what you keep, and what you do with what you keep. They don't ignore their health. Wealth without health is a bankrupt deal. What good is financial abundance if you don't have the energy to enjoy it, the clarity to manage it, or the longevity to sustain it? Self-made millionaires know this deeply. They treat their health not as a secondary concern, but as a non-negotiable priority, because they understand that their body is the first and most important business they will ever manage. A sluggish body leads to a sluggish mind. And a sluggish mind makes poor decisions, lacks focus, and burns out fast. Millionaires recognize this early. They don't wait for illness to force a lifestyle change. They build routines that protect their stamina, sharpen their thinking, and fuel their execution. Their health is their edge, and they guard it ruthlessly. This doesn't mean perfection. It means discipline. It means showing up for themselves consistently. They eat to nourish, not to escape. They move their bodies not for vanity, but for vitality. They rest not out of laziness, but out of strategy. Everything in their routine is designed to give them the strength to perform, lead, and endure. High-level performance demands high-level maintenance. You can't operate at full capacity on poor fuel. That's why they're intentional about what they put into their bodies. Clean food, water, supplements if needed. They don't rely on stimulants to fake energy. They create real energy through healthy habits. Their diet supports cognition, immunity, and mood. 3 pillars required for success under pressure. Sleep isn't optional either. It's not a badge of honor to brag about how little they rest. Millionaires sleep with purpose. They protect their hours of recovery because they know sleep is where memory consolidates, muscles rebuild, and the nervous system resets. They don't view rest as a reward. It's a requirement. Exercise is also built into their lifestyle. It's not about achieving the perfect physique. It's about keeping their engine running. Whether it's lifting weights, cardio, yoga, martial arts, or simply walking, movement keeps their blood flowing, their mind sharp, and their stress levels in check. It builds not only strength, but also discipline, a trait that transfers into every other area of their life. Mental health is part of the equation too. Millionaires understand that the mind is a powerful tool, but also a fragile one. They're proactive about managing stress, setting boundaries, and maintaining emotional balance. Whether through meditation, therapy, journaling, or solitude, they prioritize mental hygiene. They know burnout is a silent killer of dreams, and they refuse to let it take root. Their calendars reflect these values. They schedule workouts, block time for sleep, plan healthy meals, and create space to unwind. Their health isn't left to chance or squeezed in when convenient. It's built into their structure, because without health, there is no productivity. And without productivity, wealth can't grow. Millionaires also avoid toxic inputs. They're careful about what they consume, not just physically, but emotionally and digitally. They avoid excessive screen time, mindless scrolling, and negative media. They feed their minds with information that empowers, not drains. What goes into the brain is just as important as what goes into the body. There's also a long-term mindset. While others burn themselves out chasing short-term gains, millionaires play the endurance game. They want to be strong at 40, vibrant at 60, and energized at 80. They're not optimizing for one big payday. They're optimizing for decades of performance, leadership, and contribution. That requires a body and mind built to last. This commitment to health often influences those around them. They become examples in their homes, teams, and communities. They don't preach wellness, they embody it. And by doing so, they attract people who value the same, creating networks that support rather than sabotage well-being. Health gives them an unfair advantage. In a world full of overworked, overstressed, under-rested individuals chasing the next paycheck, the millionaire stands apart, energized, alert, focused. They make sharper decisions. They recover faster from setbacks. They bring presence to meetings, clarity to plans, and consistency to execution. Not because they're superhuman, but because they take care of the only machine they'll ever truly own, their body. Ignoring health is a silent form of self-sabotage. It doesn't show up instantly, but it always shows up eventually. In the form of missed opportunities, impaired judgment, emotional volatility, or physical collapse. Millionaires refuse to play that game. They understand that true prosperity includes vitality. That success means nothing if you're too tired, too sick, or too broken to enjoy it. So they move. They rest. They eat well. They protect their peace. Because they know health isn't a cost. It's the ultimate investment. They don't let emotions control decisions. Emotions are natural, human, and unavoidable. But when it comes to building wealth, they're not reliable guides. Self-made millionaires know this intimately. While the average person makes decisions based on what feels good in the moment, millionaires operate on a completely different level. Logic, data, strategy, and long-term thinking. Emotions may be present, but they're never in charge. That's because emotions are impulsive. They're reactive. They respond to pressure, stress, fear, excitement, anger, insecurity, all of which are poor foundations for serious decision-making. In the world of business and wealth building, emotional reactions lead to costly mistakes, hasty investments, impulsive purchases, partnerships formed out of desperation, and exits made in panic. Millionaires don't fall into these traps. They pause. They assess. They calculate. When fear whispers that the risk is too high, they listen, but they don't obey. They examine the numbers. They ask better questions. They prepare. Fear doesn't paralyze them. It activates their analytical mind. They recognize that fear is often a signal, not a stop sign. It might mean, be careful, but it doesn't always mean, don't move. Likewise, when anger flares, they don't lash out, burn bridges, or fire off revenge decisions. They know how costly it is to let rage write the script. They breathe, reflect, and respond, not react. Emotional intelligence is their secret weapon, allowing them to stay calm when others lose their heads. Excitement is no exception. It might feel like a green light, but millionaires don't let adrenaline push them into deals they haven't vetted. Euphoria is often as dangerous as fear. It clouds judgment and blinds you to risk. While others rush into decisions because something feels right, millionaires step back and validate with logic. They balance instinct with insight. Ego is another trap they avoid. They don't make moves just to prove a point, win an argument, or protect their image. If a decision is wrong, they admit it. If they need help, they ask for it. If they need to pivot, they do it without pride blocking the way. Their focus isn't on looking right, it's on getting results. This emotional discipline shows up everywhere. In negotiations, they don't get flustered or pushed around. They understand leverage, timing, and silence. They don't let anxiety make them overpay or impatience make them underprice. They detach from the outcome and focus on the process. In leadership, they don't take things personally. They don't micromanage from insecurity or avoid tough conversations out of discomfort. They give feedback objectively. They hire and fire based on fit and performance, not personal favoritism or fear of conflict. Their teams trust them, not because they're cold, but because they're consistent. When investments fluctuate, they don't panic sell because of a red chart or buy in a frenzy because of hype. They've seen enough cycles to know that markets move in waves. Emotions move with headlines, but wealth moves with wisdom. They stay grounded in principles and refuse to be tossed around by the emotional chaos of the crowd. Millionaires build internal systems to regulate emotions. They journal, meditate, seek counsel, study past mistakes, and stay self-aware. They understand their triggers, what makes them impulsive, defensive, or avoidant, and they proactively neutralize those patterns. Emotional mastery isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming a disciplined, self-led human who can function powerfully under pressure. They're also not afraid to walk away when something doesn't align, even if it feels tempting. Emotional maturity means turning down good-looking opportunities if they don't fit the bigger vision. It means saying no even when saying yes would be more comfortable in the moment. It's long-term thinking over instant gratification. Millionaires know that money follows clear minds. When emotions dominate, clarity disappears. Desperation, greed, jealousy, anxiety, these distort reality. They cause people to chase illusions, copy others, or betray their own goals. Millionaires don't play that game. They stay grounded. They stay centered. They make moves when the numbers make sense, the timing aligns, and the vision is clear. And when they do feel emotional, because they still do, they don't hide it. But they don't let it make the decisions. They talk it out, write it down, sit with it, and let it pass. Then they return to the driver's seat, calm, clear, and committed. This emotional mastery creates massive stability. While others crash and burn in cycles of highs and lows, millionaires stay steady. They don't make reckless decisions on Friday they'll regret on Monday. They don't chase dopamine hits through risky bets. They build consistently. They decide with discipline. And they win over time. Because in the world of high stakes, high pressure, and high potential, the one who stays calm always has the advantage. Emotion may knock on the door, but logic holds the key. They don't wait for the perfect time. Most people spend their lives waiting for clarity, for confidence, for the economy to improve, for someone to believe in them, for the right contacts, the right weather, the right alignment of stars. But those who become self-made millionaires don't have that luxury. They understand a truth that the majority avoids. The perfect time does not exist. It never has, and it never will. Waiting is the slowest form of failure. It's disguised as wisdom, but it's usually fear in costume. Millionaires don't let that fear freeze them. They act. They move. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The idea of waiting for conditions to be just right is a trap. There will always be a reason to delay. A recession, inflation, market volatility, personal uncertainty, lack of experience, fear of judgment, or not having the perfect plan. Millionaires know this. They've seen how people let years pass, paralyzed by the idea that one day it will feel easier. But time doesn't wait, and neither do they. What sets these people apart isn't just their ideas. It's their urgency. They don't wait for a blueprint to be flawless. They don't sit on a dream until everything feels safe. They start with what they have, where they are, and they figure the rest out along the way. Progress over perfection. Action over analysis. They understand that clarity comes through movement, not stillness. They don't need all the answers to begin, just the courage to take the first step. As they move, momentum builds. Opportunities appear. Lessons surface. Skills sharpen. What once seemed impossible starts to feel inevitable, but only because they had the guts to begin before they felt ready. Millionaires don't confuse planning with progress. Planning feels productive, but it often becomes a sophisticated form of procrastination. There's a difference between preparing and postponing. Winners know when enough is enough. At some point, the only thing left to do is move. Fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of imperfection, these fears don't vanish with time. They shrink with action. They get smaller every time you do the thing you thought you couldn't. Millionaires don't eliminate fear. They outpace it. They act faster than their doubts can catch up. They also reject the illusion that the path has to feel comfortable. If they waited to feel confident, they'd never launch. If they waited to feel certain, they'd never invest. If they waited to feel qualified, they'd never lead. Instead, they embrace the unknown. They accept that discomfort is part of the deal, not a signal to stop, but a sign they're growing. Millionaires treat time like their most precious currency. While others kill time with hesitation, they buy time with action. Every day matters. Every delay has a cost. They don't waste hours, weeks, or years waiting for a green light that's never coming. They become the green light. They give themselves permission. They say yes, and then they get better. This mindset separates the creators from the consumers. Most people are spectators of their own potential, watching, thinking, dreaming, hesitating. Millionaires step onto the field. They're not waiting for luck, approval, or the right mood. They create circumstances. They make moves. They understand that success doesn't come to the most talented. It comes to the most daring. They also know that mistakes are inevitable. There will be failure. There will be messiness. There will be uncertainty. But none of that is a reason to wait. It's a reason to begin now, so they can learn faster, adjust quicker, and grow stronger. They build resilience by starting before the conditions are ideal. They trust their ability to adapt more than the illusion of the right moment. This is how they win. They don't waste energy chasing perfection. They invest energy in execution. While others are perfecting their plan, they're perfecting their process through real-world action. This philosophy applies to everything: launching businesses, making investments, starting partnerships, creating products, expanding into new markets. Millionaires move decisively. They may refine later, but they initiate now. They don't get stuck in someday thinking. They live in the present, because they know the present is all they truly control. Even when the path is unclear, even when resources are limited, even when the support system isn't strong, they start. Because starting changes everything. It shifts identity. It builds belief. It breaks inertia. It transforms you from a thinker into a doer. And doers win. The truth is this: the perfect moment is not found, it's forged. Through courage, consistency, and commitment. Millionaires don't wait for things to feel easy. They train themselves to take action when it's hard. Because the world rewards those who move, not those who wait. They understand that time won't slow down to accommodate your fear. Opportunities don't sit still. Life moves. And so do they. So, while others are waiting for permission, they're building empires. While others are perfecting plans, they're producing results. While others are wondering when, they're proving now. Fortune favors the bold, not the perfect. A 5-second message. Are you in debt? Want to know how to always have money? After watching this video, click the first link below, in the description or the pinned comment. Discover the Live Always with Money method. Find out the 10 steps that are changing lives. Link in the description and pinned comment. And for you, the one who knows you were born to be a millionaire, to be rich, I invite you to discover how to get rich through the power of thought. Access the method in the description. Golden Mindset: 30 Steps to Wealth Through the Power of the Mind.